Hi guys, welcome to Always Yarn First, a podcast about knitting, crochet, and all the yarny goodness in between. I'm Lindsay. I'm coming to you from Little Rock, Arkansas, and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry, also as Always Yarn First. So welcome, it's episode 5. Today is February 12th, 2022, and I've got some exciting things to talk about today. So I'm really excited to be here. If you've been here before, you know that I name every episode after a song that is fitting for my crafting the last few weeks. So today's song and episode title is Big Love, and it's by Fleetwood Mac. So you will find the Spotify link to that song below, along with everything else I talk about in this episode. So, I've been busy the last 2 weeks. I haven't been working on, I feel like, as many projects, but because I got 2 big ones done. So that was super exciting. But before we get into what I've been working on, a few things to mention. One, I have 2 knit-alongs or make-alongs going on currently. First of all, it's the hashtag /mystash2022MAL. Both of the make-alongs are for knitting or crochet. The /mystash is just to encourage you to use some of your stash. So this is good for any work in progress or finished object. Post a picture on Instagram, use the hashtag. The only rule is that it has to be 100% yarn from before this year, that you've bought before this year, that has been sitting in your stash before this year. So super easy, which makes it super easy to double, triple, quadruple dip, and other make-alongs, including the other one I'm co-hosting with my friend Lori, who is the owner and dyer at Arkansas Yarn Co. We are hosting a year-long Chevron blanket. I mentioned it last time, but we kind of ironed out the details. So it officially started February 1st, and we're going to January of 2023. It is a year long. So the rules is it has to be a chevron pattern, any chevron pattern, and a blanket. So the smallest project it could be is like a baby blanket, but otherwise a throw or a full-size blanket for your bed or whatever. It just has to be chevron. It has to be a blanket. The reason of the dates that we're using is because we are both using Lori's new Sock Yarn Society Club, and that started, her first box went out the end of January. So we are using all her club colorways for this make-along. So we're using the club colorways. So because the month colorways don't come out to the end of the month, that means when December comes out, the end of December, we have January to finish up our chevron blanket. But you do not have to use her Sock Society Club. You can use any yarn you want. So you can enter this make-along 2 different ways. Again, on Instagram, you can use the hashtag the Chevron Year Itch and post your pictures there. We will occasionally be pulling for prizes. And then finished objects will be on Lori's Ravelry. So you need to go under groups in Ravelry and find Arkansas Yarn Co. And she has a finished object thread for the make-along. Now, if you finish an object and you use Lori's yarn, whether it's the current Sock Yarn Society or any of her yarn, you can post the picture twice and you get a double entry. But you do not have to use Lori's yarn. And the reason we did this, I have a video on my channel here where we talk about the make-along in her box. And because as we know, I'm not trying to add a bunch to my stash that I don't know what I'm going to do with. I'm okay with adding to stash if I have a purpose. So I really wanted Lori's box, at least for the first year, because it's such a special thing coming from her. but I need to have a project. So I decided, okay, I'm going to make a chevron blanket, and each month is going to be one giant chevron. So she decided she wanted to do it also, and the great thing about chevrons is you can find tons of patterns, whether you're a knitter or a crocheter. So it is for knitting and crochet, both of my make-alongs. So I hope you enter those. The second thing I want to mention, also if you've been here before, you know regarding my stash, I'm doing a giveaway each month for the Slash My Stash make-along, where I'm giving away a skein of yarn from my stash that just doesn't speak to me anymore. So I did pull a January winner on February 1st, and it was Emily who won, and she is Delight_Knits. She won the January prize for posting, and so that was already sent to her. She's already received it, and so I want to show what this month's prize is. So this is for the Slash My Stash make-along. So you use the hashtag all February long, and at the end of the month I will pull a winner, and you will get this beauty. There's a lot going on in this skein. This is Primrose yarn, and this is the Adelaide base, which is a single ply fingering weight 100% superwash merino, 435 yards, and the color is Like a Hurricane. So this will be the February prize, so please post on Instagram, use your stash, post, and you can win this yarn. Also with a progress keeper from Lori that she has donated to go each month with the prize. So that is all of the admin things. So should we get into what I've been working on? Let's start with finished objects, because I got 2 sweaters done, y'all. All right. The first one is my Mama Vertebrae. And it is so good. And I love it. Again, where I'm podcasting, it isn't really great to show, but I'll put in a picture. This is so nice. So this was knit out of Stress Knits DK weight in the color Golden Hour. I used just under 4 skeins, I think, and it was great. I love it. It feels comfortable. I did my sleeves like just to the elbow, which is great, but because of the DK weight, it's just warm enough. Like, I'm hot-blooded, and so it has the thickness of the DK, and this is such soft, lovely yarn, but yet this sweater doesn't really go around your front at all. It just hangs on your side. So it's just warmth right here and your back. So that's perfect for me, and I'm positive that at some point I'm going to knit another one. So maybe in blue or pink, which are my favorites. But this is wonderful. In fact, I'll probably leave this on. So that is done. And then 1 week after I finished this, I finished this, which is my Autumn League pullover. Now, last time I had completed the body. So I just needed to do the sleeves and the neckbands. On this one, I pretty much did sleeves to like bracelet length that you'd call it, where it's coming just like right here. I like it if I, wash my hands or whatever, I don't have to move my sweater and it gets all wet. But this is meant to look and feel like a sweatshirt, and it does. It's perfect. The one thing I want to mention, which I'm not positive if I've mentioned while I was working on it. So this pattern is by Alexandra Tavel, and I used Hedgehog fiber DK weight Tweedy. And this sweater, it is a paid for pattern, and the pattern has you knit it flat. But the instructions were so easy that without giving away the numbers, basically it's top down. And when you got to the sleeve separation, originally what it had you do is basically just keep the back and then the front separate, and you add stitches over the arm area. So all I did to continue working this in the round was add, I read both of them. For me, it was 12 stitches. 6, like I had you do 6 when you were doing this, and then 6 when you were doing there. So it meant 12 total over the arm, the sleeve area. So I just cast on the 12 stitches and just kept knitting. It was that easy. So, and because of that, this was such an easy pattern. Such an easy pattern. It went so fast. And again, I could see myself having another one. I love this yarn. I've had this yarn for a while, and I thought this was a great to have that like sweatshirt feel to it, because it's gray, which a lot of sweatshirts, you know, when I was growing up were gray sweatshirts, but it has that pops of tweed and the different colors. And they have, Hedgehog has this also in their, called their noir, which is essentially the same thing, except it's black instead of gray. And I almost kind of want to do the same sweater in noir. Is that weird? Oh, but it's so good. It's kind of warmer days here in Arkansas now. But I'm hoping I get some wear out of it before it completely goes into springtime. Because once it hits spring, this will be too warm for me. In fact, I was wearing it before I hit record on the podcast. I was going to try to wear it for the podcast, and I had to take it off because I was too hot. And I put on a sleeveless shirt. I told you, I'm very hot-blooded. So, I got 2 sweaters done, and that is super exciting to me. I love, and that's another reason why I don't mind having lots of different whips, because sometimes the timing, people, you know, you tell people you've finished 2 sweaters in a week, and they're like, what? Well, it took me longer than a week to make. But sometimes the timing just all comes out where you're like, oh, I'm close to finishing these 2 things. Well, now I need to get them done. So they're both wonderful. All right, so that is all for finished objects. And that was a lot of my time because especially the Autumn League pullover, I was really kind of challenging myself to get it done before the podcast, which wasn't that hard. It just meant that I had to focus on it instead of getting sidetracked to other projects. So, all right, so let's go into whips that I have worked on the last few weeks. All right, this one we've seen a bunch. I have worked on it a bit more. This is in my Fringe Supply Co. bag, which no longer exists. This is the La Bien Amie version. And this is my lightweight hipster. So, show where I was last time without losing my stitches, hopefully. Okay, so last time I had just finished the lace work. You can see where my marker is. And I was just in the garter section, so I finished that whole garter section, and I'm in the middle of the lace work again. So yeah, it's going. It helped. I hadn't really worked on it, but then Kristen and Maddie of We Share Needles, they're the ones that are hosting the Sha-La-La along, which is, this is why I've cast this on, working up shawls. And they had a Zoom call last weekend to get on and see how everyone's doing. So I felt like I needed to work on this while I was on the Zoom. So that's when I got pretty much a lot of this worked on. So again, this is Arkansas Yarn Co. This is her Yummy Sparkle Base in the colorway Some Pig. And it's beautiful. And this is a pattern by Joji Locatelli, and it is a 1 skein pattern. If you have those beautiful 1 skeins that you've been holding on to and don't know what to do with. So, okay, the next thing I've been working on is my Scrappy Granny. This is the blanket I'm using, Row 1 Minis. And Row 1 Minis is you get 10 gram skeins already wound, ready to go every month. And every month they're by a different dyer. So I'm kind of backed up. I have a few more months coming. I was hoping to... This is my last one of this bundle. I made, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7 since the last podcast, 7 squares. I was hoping to finish this last one, but I didn't quite do it. I was working on some other things. So this is all what I have been doing. So I don't have the colorways of each thing, but I will tell you that the dyer behind this month's bundle, let's see, is Candy Skein yarn. So all of these yarns are by the dyer Candy Skein. So I've just been using the pattern Scrappy Granny by Knitty Natty. It is a free pattern. I use almost all of the 10 grams that I've been doing. So if this is your first time, I've been using these, and then I make 2 cream squares, and then I connect them together in one big strip. These 2 I had finished the last time, these 2 yellow ones. So I'm hoping to finish that. We'll talk about goals at the end of the podcast. But yeah, so I made quite a few of those, which is good. I have been trying to get back on Scrappy Sunday and literally been working on these. Because I find that if I do a few in a row, they don't take me that long. But if I don't pick them up for weeks and then I pull it out, it seems like it takes me a lot longer. Once I get that hand motion of that stitch, I can get through them pretty quickly. So I can do, I think last Sunday I did 5 of them. So I know I can get these done in a month. It's just I haven't focused on them because, you know, squirrel, all the other projects that you have to work on, right? So I've worked on that. Okay, right here. So last week, I haven't been knitting socks as much, which I said this is the year of garments to me. But the problem with that is socks are perfect when you're going out, like when you're going out to dinner or you're, you know, for me, I have a teenage daughter, and if she wants to do shopping and I am not in a place where I want to shop for myself, so I pretty much stand around while she shops. I don't have a sock, which is lightweight, small, can be thrown in my purse and easy to do. So she wanted to go shopping last week, and I'm like, I don't have anything that small to take with me. So what I did is I grabbed a sock tube. So I do not have a sock machine, but I love occasionally getting some sock tubes made. And I'm going to show you here what they look like when you get them. And I have linked below where I get my sock tubes from. There's a lot of different people you can. I get it from a person on Etsy called Tangerine8. I know I looked before the podcast, and she charges $16 for 100 grams. So what that could mean is that you get literally 100 gram sock tube. Or if you have 50 gram sock tubes, you can send 2 in, and that still counts as 100 gram. So I also had some 50 gram sock tubes. That's this one. So this is what they look like. It has waste yarn on the end. And if you've never done a sock tube, like knit from a sock tube, it's really not that difficult. So basically, you see that I started with this one. And I have not even knit on this yet. So all you do is you're going to pick up the stitches underneath that waist yarn. You're going to pick up the right leg of each stitch, one side. For me, I do a 64 count foot, and so that's what these are. So I make sure that I have 32 stitches on one side. I do a magic loop. So I have 32 stitches on this side, and then I pick up 32 on the other side. So that then you start pulling this out and just unraveling this waist yarn. And then you're left with this. So this is where I'm at. I took off the waist yarn and a little bit of this, and I'm ready to start knitting right here. So what I do, so again, this is a 50-gram skein because this isn't super long. So how I do it is on the ends, I knit the cuffs. So again, I'm going to knit another cuff to be the top of a sock. So you can see then I fold it in half. I will put a little marker here, right in the half where I folded it. And again, I will pick up the stitches underneath of it. I basically cut in half right here. Once I've cut in half and I've unraveled this row here, where I'll have two separate pieces, then I'll knit toes. So I'll knit the toe on this side, and I'll knit the toe on this side. And then all you have to do is figure out your measurements where you are. Some people have counted rows to where they add like an afterthought heel. I usually do measurements. So I will measure, and then you just add an afterthought heel, which there's loads of instructional videos on YouTube on how to do that. So yeah, that's how I do it. So this is a 50-gram sock, which I really love that, because then you just do the cuffs, you do the toes from here, and then you add your afterthought. So for this long one I have here, this is 100 grams, although this is where I get the tubes done. She also, when you do the 100 grams, you can also choose to hold back 20 grams. Like if you want to hold 20 grams for heels, toes, cuffs to add the same color, or you keep those for like a mini skein tray for 20 grams. I think this one is actually, when I compare it to the 50 grams, it's not a full 100. So I'm pretty sure this blue one, I held back 20 grams. And so she just gives you that in a ball. So for this one, I can make 2 pairs of socks, because those would be really long socks. So this is half right here. And I love shorty socks, so I could get 2 full pairs. Now for me, again, I would do it the same way, just because that's how my brain works when I work with these. I would do 2 cuffs here. I would still cut right down here halfway, and I would do 2 toes. But then I would measure out to do the 2 other cuffs and the 2 other toes. So we can see this is like 2 pairs of socks right here. So I love having these. I would love to have a sock machine, but that's just one more thing, honestly, to spend your time on. And I just want to knit. So I like having these tubes. I have 3 other ones up here, and I don't use them all the time, but this was perfect for, I was leaving the house and I didn't know what to work on. So I thought, oh, let me just get these stitches on here, and I won't touch this again until actually tomorrow. I'm taking my daughter shopping again, and I'll probably just take this with my color here. And before you ask, I don't remember what color this is. It looks like an Arkansas Yarn Co. color, but it doesn't feel like her base. Maybe I got a different base. I'm not positive. And I also could be Pineapple Yarn, who has a lot of bright colors also. But I couldn't find the tag to this one, so I'm not sure the colorway of this. But again, I have it linked below where I go to get these made up. And she tells you, it could take a couple weeks. but every time I've sent them off, I put in the tracking number to send my yarn to her, and then I can see that she's received it. I receive it not even a week later, both times that I have ordered from her. She is crazy fast, so these are really great to have. So, okay, next thing is a new cast on, and I already talked about the make-along I'm doing with Lori, the Chevron blanket. I'm going to try to fold this over. This is a bag by Mrs. Brown's Bags, who is Jody and the Grocery Girls. And we'll see how long this big bag will hold this. So this is also acquisitions, because this includes the yarn from Lori's January box, the Sock Yarn Society. And for my blanket, I've decided I also bought some of her wedding cake color. So it's pretty much a bear, but it's on sparkle base. So you can order her Sock Yarn Society in a couple of different bases. They're all fingering weight, thus Sock Yarn Society. But I'm getting sparkle, and Lori's also doing sparkle. So our blankets will be using the same yarn, but you know they'll be different because we're using a little bit different patterns. So it'll be interesting to see. So for what I'm doing is I cast on with the wedding cake, and I'm going to do 2 rows of wedding cake between each chevron. So not a lot. Like, I didn't want to have a bunch because I didn't know. Lori has the advantage. She kind of knows what colors she's going to be having all year. I don't know what colors, but I just wanted a little something. So we'll see if it comes across here. So you can see it from afar. I feel like you can't tell the difference, but when you look, you can see the white, the wedding cake, and then January's color has like a blue tint to it. So again, because it's kind of curling, it's kind of hard to see, but this is my chevron. My pattern is called Chevron Baby Blanket and Throw, because it's a baby blanket or a throw in the same pattern. It is a free pattern by Karin, Karin, and I have it linked below. And super easy. It's 2 rows. One is like the chevron, and then the other is purling in the back. So super easy. Can totally do it TV knitting. I love this. This is going to be great. I'm trying to be semi caught up. Because again, if you watched my other video with Lori on my channel here, we are, along with the make along, every single month when her new box gets released, I will be doing a live video with Lori, and we will be doing an unboxing, show what's in it, and then we will be both showing our blankets and see the progress we've been making. So all year you'll get to see the new yarn we're about to add in the blanket, plus the progress we've made so far on our blanket. So I'm gonna really try to stay caught up. Because I'm not doing a lot of socks, this is perfect evening TV knitting when I'm watching TV with my family, because I don't have to think about it, and it's so sparkly and so pretty. So you can see what I got left going on, my little mini cozies here. So yeah, this is great. And I think what's great about a chevron blanket is, to me, it's such a classic look. It just, I think it's a style that never really fades. You know, a chevron always looks good. So this is super exciting. And my stitch marker is one I showed that was new last time. And I forgot who it's from already. Vessel Stitch Co. That's right. So this is my blanket. So the end of this month, I mean, you'll show, let's see, y'all have another podcast to show the status on this. And then I'll also have another video with Lori so we can see what she's using. And she's using the Missoni chevron pattern, which is going to have more white between the stripes. So it will look very different. So I'm really excited when we get together to see what hers looks like. So that is my chevron blanket. All right, so I talked about yesterday on Instagram about, you know, the great thing about when you finish a sweater is, in my mind, it gives me permission to cast on another sweater, right? So technically this one I had cast on before. I don't think I wasn't quite done with my Mama Vertebrae, but I was so close that I allowed myself to cast it on. And this is my Lawrenson pullover. Again, we're kind of at that weird stage. Doesn't really look like a sweater yet. So where I was last time is I just had this little piece down here at the bottom. You can see where my stitch marker was. I started up here and worked down, and I was right here. So I finished that, and that is the back. So now, if we fold it over like this, it's kind of looking like a sweater. So now I'm on the front. So this is the front. I was really hoping to get to where I was in the round before the podcast, but I didn't quite make it. I'm basically at the armhole shaping part of the front now. And after I have 6 more repeats of what I'm doing, then I will connect it in the round. So I'm almost there. So this is by, the yarn is by Arkansas Yarn Co. This was specially dyed for me from Lori. This is her Yummy DK base, and it's in Shockingly, which is pretty appropriate for how bright this pink is. I love it though. So this is the Lawrenson sweater, and so that was cast on last time. But since I have cast on another sweater, and I have a fun story to tell about this other sweater. So this sweater I cast on yesterday is about 5 years in the making. And I'm not a designer. I'm not saying that I designed or anything, but this has an interesting story. So one of the yarn stores I love in Texas called Park Avenue Yarns is not very far from my friend that lives south of Houston. And every time I go visit her, we of course have to go to that yarn store. And so in 2018, I went, and I don't know if they were new to dyeing there. They dye their own yarn, but they don't dye it a lot. Like Lori has a lot of her colors at her store. They just dye when they have time. So it's, you know, few and far between. But anyways, their yarn is called Olive Yarn. And I saw this yarn, and if you're new here, blue is my favorite color. And orange was always my second favorite color, but since getting into knitting, I find that blue and pinks are my jam. Blue and pinks are what I gravitate toward. So I saw this yarn. So it has this light pink, it has this gorgeous like deep blue to like almost like a light blue grayish. And they had 2 skeins of this. So this is on their Vista worsted base. It's a 4-ply worsted weight, 100% superwash merino. And the colorway is called Horizon. And I loved it. And again, back then when I bought yarn, I wasn't thinking about what I was going to make with it. I just saw pretty yarn and bought it. So I bought 2 skeins because that's what they had. And then I have my yarn out where I can see it. You can probably see a little bit back here. I like to look at it because when a pattern comes out I like, I try to see if there's something I have that will work. And if I see it, I'm more likely to use it. And I had this yarn out, and I kept looking at it, and I'm like, oh, I really want to make something with that. But what am I going to do with 2 skeins of worsted weight? So it sat, and it sat. And then I saw a pattern of a sweater I really, really wanted to make. And for some reason, when I saw this pattern and I looked at this yarn on my shelf, I'm like, that's what I want to make it in. But I had 2 skeins. So the pattern is in this book, Seamless Knit Sweaters in 2 Weeks. It is by Marie Greene, and she's founder of Olive Knits, which I also thought was funny. That wasn't the reason why I booked together Olive Knits plus Olive Yarn. That was just a coincidence, but I thought it was funny. So I'll show you the pattern. This is the picture of it. It is called the Cape Creek Minimalist Pullover. So, fairly basic sweater. I can't really, it has like this little bit of a detail down the front. And then it has, I really thought it was interesting how it did like the cuffs up the arm. So, when I saw this pattern, I'm like, I want the sweater in this yarn. But I want that ribbed sleeve part in a plain color. I don't know. I couldn't get it out of my head. Well, of course, I didn't have a sweater quantity. Now, Park Avenue Yarns does have a website. I would usually go visit them 1, maybe twice a year. I'd always look for this yarn. Couldn't find it. Well, in 2019, I was able to go to the DFW Fiber Festival in Dallas, and they were going to have a booth there. It was in like in April of 2019, and I'm like, oh, surely they're going to have a bunch of their dyed yarn. And that was #1 stop. That was my first ever yarn festival I went to, and when I went in, I rushed to their booth, hoping to find this yarn. I was so excited. I said, oh, this is the sweater I want to make. This is the yarn I have of yours, but I need this much more. And she's like, yeah, sorry, we don't have any. And I was so bummed. And I would keep going on their website and checking. Nothing. So I went to Texas this last November, 2021, and I went into the yarn shop. And I told my friend, I'm like, oh yeah, of course I'm always looking for this yarn, but I just know it's never going to happen. I just need to buy a different yarn for the sweater, but I really have it in my mind to make this one. So I walked in, and I went over to, like I said, they have just like this tiny little shelf of their hand-dyed yarn. I walked in, and I saw 3 of these, and I could not believe it. I pretty much did a happy dance right there in the store because I couldn't believe it. Now, this is worsted weight. However, it's not the same base. Now, I'm not sure if they don't have this base anymore. So this base was 100% superwash merino, 4-ply, worsted weight. This is 4-ply, worsted weight, but it's 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. So this is way softer. Now, it's worsted weight, it's 4-ply, it's the same color. So all I'm going to do is alternate yarn like I would do anyway for hand-dyed yarn. I have 2 skeins of the original and 3 skeins of this. So I cast on with the cashmere close to my neck. It'd be super soft. And now I'm alternating every row, this one and this one, back to back. So, I mean, 5 years in the making. I can't believe I'm finally making this sweater. And then for the sleeves, I mentioned that I wanted to do a different color for that sleeve part. And I had just got this from Lori. This is a Malabrigo Rios. And I thought, now granted, there's not gray in here, but this blue sometimes looks grayish. And I just think it looks cool. I hope it really will be as cool as I think of it in my mind, because I'll be super sad if it's not. So that is my long-winded story about the yarn. So I cast this on yesterday, and I didn't want to put it down. Of course, it's at the beginning, so it looks like a hot mess. There's ends everywhere. You started flat for a very little bit. It doesn't look like much, but it's been in my dream knitting for so long that I just am thrilled to have it on my needles. So I have this wrapped around, so it's a mess. But here it is. This is literally the start. It doesn't look like anything. It is in the round though now, so I'm just knitting with some increases. And like I said, I cast on with the cashmere, but now I've been alternating, and because the cashmere is next to the one that's a little bit stiffer, you can't tell. It feels just as nice. It's excellent. And I am loving how the colors are coming across. Oh, this blue and pink together. So I will probably be working on this quite a bit between now and the next podcast, because it's been a long time coming, and I'm just so excited to have it on my needles, and now it's in the round, so hopefully it will be smooth sailing, and I'm really excited about it. So that is it for my whips. Make sure. Yes, that's it. So let's quickly talk about, it's my first podcast of February, so beginning of every month, I want to kind of check in with stats or goals. So my January stats were I had 15 skeins of yarn come in to me and 31 skeins out. Now, that is a lot of skeins out, and you're like, how in the world? I have a lot of my yarn on Ravelry. If I don't love it anymore, I will put willing to sell. And sometimes I don't hear anything for a year, and then all of a sudden I'll get requests for things. So I got quite a few requests. I've sold some, and I got rid of a lot of yarn that way. And so 31 skeins out, which is pretty good. I've also finished 3 things in January, so I'm really happy about that. I had less skeins of yarn coming in than I did going out, which is good. That's always the good thing for me. All right, so goals for February. Now, I wrote these before I finished my sweater. Things I'd like to finish before the end of February. Finish my current row 1 minis, which I have 1 color, like I mentioned, of that, plus 2 white strips, white squares, and then connect a strip. And I would like to finish 6 more of the next pack of colors to try to get caught up with my row 1 minis. So we'll see how that goes. That would require crocheting 6, 7, 8, 9 more squares, and then connecting a strip. So we'll see. The other goal was to finish my arm length pullover, which I already did that. The next goal is to finish my January chevron. And I have 2 weeks left in the month, and you saw how much yarn I had left of those skeins, because I'm holding, I didn't know if I mentioned, I'm holding Lori's yarn double. That's why I had them in 2 smaller skeins to have like a DK thickness. So pretty sure I'm on track for that. The other 2 goals I have, I want to pick back up my V-back tee. If you'll remember, I was working on that with my Advent calendar from last year, which was from Pineapple Yarn. I stopped because I was at the point where I had the sleeve separate, and I really hate math. I know I shouldn't be a knitter because I hate math so much, even simple math. But figuring out how much yarn I needed to leave and the colors to do my sleeves, even though I do short sleeves, I just need to figure it out. And if it doesn't match exactly, I need to be okay with it. But That's such an easy knit, and I need to just pick it back up. So my goal is to start my sleeves and finish my sleeves on the V-back tee, because it's going to be barely sleeves. I just need to finish that because I know once I get past that, I will pick back that sweater up and finish knitting it without a problem. The next thing I want to do is a crochet project. So myself and my daughter are teaching a crochet class at Arkansas Yarn Co. next Saturday, which would be Saturday, February 19th. So if you're interested and you're fairly local, come to Arkansas Yarn Co., Malvern, Arkansas on the 19th. Sign up is on Lori's website, and you can sign up to do a class with us. And my daughter is helping me because she crochets more than I do. She does not a knitter. She's just a crocheter. We're going to bring a bunch of the things that she's crocheted to have on display, and we're going to basically do basic stitches. Past casting on, or starting up a project in single crochet, we're going to do half double crochet, double crochet, treble crochet. And we hope to have more classes in the future, but I kind of want to see what people are interested in learning, whether it's granny squares, granny stripes, circular projects like a garment or a hat, things like that. I kind of want to see what the interest is to see where we go with it. But we're really excited about that, and that we get to do it together is pretty cool. So I want to get started. I'm planning on working on a crochet shawl to have as a display item for Lori's store, because she doesn't currently have any crochet items on display, to try to get the interest into more knitters even learning crochet, and that it's just another skill to be versatile in your, skill base, I guess. And that crochet can do different things than knitting. So I'm hoping to get started on that shawl project. But yeah, that's it. So that's the things I like to accomplish in February. So I have pretty much right on 2 weeks left. So I will have another podcast in 2 weeks, and for that one, I will do another top 3 list. So look for that. In the meantime, I hope you all are having a good time with your knitting, your crocheting. I'm happy you're here, and if you could, please like, subscribe this channel. I thank you so much for those that keep coming back and leave kind comments. Please comment below. I love visiting with you and getting to know all of you out there. Make sure you take part in our make-alongs with the hashtags, and I'll see you next time. Bye.